Hi everyone, this is the introduction to a case study in the UPV EHU, and the study is about improvement in the effectiveness and quality of learning through the peer review strategy. The authors of this case study were Clodopi Cameso Ayerdi, Jesús Ángel Pérez da Silva, Terese Mendiguren Galdospin, and María Ganzaba Learreta. So for the introduction, subject teachers' interest and improving teaching, several SIPs in the last 10 years. So in this sense, web news content creation and reporting, formerly online journalistic writing, has always had a teaching staff concerned with improving the training of its students, which has reflected in several educational innovation projects, which are called PIE. These are founded by the University of the Basque Country over the last 10 years. These teachers form part of Quezo Taberri, a group of specializing in didactic innovation and new teaching methodologies with the IKD seal awarded by the UPV EHU's Educational Advisory Services. However, these experiences have always focused on the teaching process. In this respect, the following is a teaching innovation initiative based on the belief that not only can the approach to the teaching process be changed, but also use the approach for evaluation. To this end, it has been thought that it would be of interest for students to participate in the assessment process and in the feedback process of the subjects by reviewing each other's exercises. During the process, several fears had to be overcome, such as the work overload for the teaching staff that would be generated by the new teaching strategy, or the possible subjectism of the revision carried out by the students as a result of chronicism or inexperience. And so as I was saying, the subject teachers interesting in improving teaching over the last 10 years. The experiences focused on the teaching process, and then the change on focus evolution was done through assessment, the assessment itself, which can also become learning content, moving from assessment from learning to assessment for learning, and as I was saying, overcoming different fears. So based on the UPV EHU's IKD educational model, which aims for the more active and cooperative learning to train students, the main objectives of this project is to improve the teaching of the subject's competences and contents. And these following aims or goals were also pursued throughout the assessment, which include number one, to increase students' involvement and motivation. Number two, to develop students' critical and reflective capacity. And number three, to encourage students' ability to regulate and take responsibility for their own learning. The project assumes that active participation in the evaluation process and in the feedback process by reviewing each other's exercises offers for the following advantages. So these would be, so it helps students to better understanding and internalize this set of knowledge and skills that enable them to advantage in their training as communicators. It also increases learners' involvement in learning because they have to go deeper into the content and or assessment criteria if they want an effectiveness review with their peers tasks assigned to them. So this duty to assess others reinforces learners' responsibility and commitment to the teaching process in order to achieve the best possible result. And finally, the last objective would be that reviewing and marking peer exercises forces learners to be critical and to develop the ability to evaluate and explain their decisions in a reasoned way. In addition, it also enables students to increase their critical capacity in relation to their own exercises. This is done by observing how others have solved exercises, and they've also enriched their learning by identifying from for themselves the weak points in their work. Um, so the proposal was divided into two different phases. So the first phase was the pilot phase, which was done between 2022 and 2023 academic years. So this consists on the implementation of the initiative in the subject. So web news contents, creation and reporting. This consisted of an experience of peer assessment in a project-based learning, which is PBL in a PBL context. This stage was used to become familiar with the functioning of the platform and to correct possible configuration errors. The project consisted on creating a digital media in groups of 4 people and publishing 8 journalistic contents during the 4-month period, which were evaluated by their peers. The students have thus learned to proceed to produce their own multimedia information effectively while internalizing the content. Um, and they've also learned to develop the new skills necessary to exercise the profession of digital journalism. The evaluation and feedback processes have been supervised by the teaching staff, who have proposed suggestions for improvement according to shortcomings detected. And then the other phase was the PIE application phase. So here you've got a sort of diagram with all the different phases that I've been mentioning. Okay, so at the end of the term, when teaching in the subject writing and creation of web content was about to end, students of Group 17 were asked to respond to a questionnaire about the peer review experience. So here is a graph of some of the results of the questionnaire that they had to fill in. So the results show that a total of 99 responses were received, and then out of these, 85% welcomed the initiative, saying that they agreed and they thought that it was a good idea. And in this respect, 67% out of those indicated that it had allowed them to become more actively involved in the learning process. And furthermore, 47.4% of them responded that it had depended in their understanding of their own learning and helped them to identify their strengths or weaknesses. So basically, the results show that it was an overall a very successful project. Um, In addition, among the students who liked the peer review system, the most agreed options were firstly, that it had helped them to correct mistakes and had helped them to improve the final writing of the exercises. And secondly, they indicated that they had learned more by also acting as peer reviewers of each other's exercises. So these results are showed on this graph. And on the other hand, students who evaluated the experience negatively pointed out that the main reasons for the negative assessment were their concern about the responsibility that part of their classmates' marks depended on their work as reviewers, and that they did not like it because some of the students were not fully involved, obviously. So this is showing those results. So overall, this graph represents the all of the sort of 3 breakdowns of the conclusions that were analyzed. So this is just an overall review of everything that we've mentioned before. And so for the final conclusions, for the pilot experience, the conclusions show that it has produced grades that are close to the ones that would be awarded by the teacher himself or herself, and it has also helped students to develop the competence established in the subject. Another conclusion was that 82.8% of the participants responded that they would recommend applying the system in other degree subjects. So yeah, overall, we think that this was a very successful project and a very good way to get students to evaluate each other's work, and it turned out very successful. So perhaps this sort of social experiments could be recommended later on. So thanks everyone for listening, and hopefully you found this interesting.